I have with me a legitimate legend, not from the state of South Australia, but what I'll do is I'll let him introduce himself. G'day, Rex.
Hey Mike, how are you?
Good.
Mate, I'm Rex Nottage. Been involved in basketball for a bit longer than I thought I was going to be. Been involved for 40 odd years. The last 38 I've been coaching and getting paid to do so, which is quite a rarity in Australia to sort of survive that long and make a quid out of it. I love the game, and I'm sure you're going to ask me questions, and I'll give you some reasons and why I've ended up where I've ended up. So it's over to you right now, Mike.
Thanks, Rex. I know you've been in it for quite a while because I did meet you first in 1987 when you were New South Wales Director of Coaching. And what struck me there was your energy and enthusiasm. So let's go back. What was your first basketball experience, your first memories of the game, and why it became the hook?
Yeah, well, that was came about in year 7. Went to a school called Ferntree Gully Technical College. The school had a fairly rough reputation in that period, and in the first couple of weeks, I'll never forget it, they had brought in these PE guys who were, I think they were ex-military, I'm sure they were, well, the guy I got to know really well was, and they lined us up, all these boys that starting in year 7, they just went along and they went, you're doing basketball, you're doing Aussie rules, you're doing European handball, if you can believe that. And there was one other sport that I still can't believe, I can't remember what the fourth sport was. And the idea was, of course, if there was a rough school, so they figured if they got you involved and kept you tied, you'd keep out of trouble. So the bloke I dealt with was a bloke called Jim Davis. Now, he was a soccer player, he was an Englishman, which is quite interesting from a basketball background, because you never sort of associate basketball and the Poms. But Jim was playing with St Kilda in Melbourne, St Kilda Business Houses, Division 2, so he was a good player in his own right. And we used to go in every morning around 6:30, and then we'd go to school started. I think in those days we started school about 9, so we'd be 2 hours in there. And then after school we'd do the same thing. And I'm a typical Victorian country kid. We grew out of, it was a fair hike for me to get to Ferntree Gully. In those days it was out in the bush still. And I'll never forget, the hook was, the game was a game when you were on, you actually played it. I mean, you're on defense, you're on offense, and you're running up and down, and there was no other sport like it, because you've got to remember, as a primary school kid, if you're playing footy, the other guy had they had a really strong back line or something, and you're in your back line, you never saw the ball because they just had that much strength, they just run over the top of you. So it was, you could play your whole primary school career. You could, if you were in a strong team, well, it didn't matter. You mightn't touch the ball. You could stand the spot. If you played cricket, you stood there and watched everybody, etc., etc., etc. But basketball, here was a game where you actually, when you were on, boy, you're up and down. You're playing defense. You're playing offense, and there was all these crazy skills to learn. But that was fun too, and that excitement of putting the ball in the hole. That was a hook that got me, no question.
Well, you may have missed out on putting the ball in the hole quite a bit, Rex. I'm not sure how good you were at that. But you're right about the game, and for me it was like, even after you played, you get your basketball, you could bounce it on the way home, you could go to a church hall in those days and find a hoop and just practice on your own. You didn't need another kid to kick to, you didn't need another player to hit the tennis ball with, it was just you and them.
Exactly.
So I think we'll find a lot of reasons for that. Now, Rex, as you said, 38, 40 years, we won't go through the whole lot, but just a snapshot of the activities, the positions, and the highlights of that. And we're focused on your coaching career.
Yeah, absolutely. I had my mum died when I was fairly young. Well, fairly young in my early 20s, and that was sort of when I stopped playing. I sort of lost my way a little bit there, and I ended up, after belting around the countryside for a while, I ended up in Port Macquarie, and they'd opened up a brand new stadium. So I ended up coaching and playing the state league team, and got involved in that. Then I'm involved coaching juniors. Just really got back in it because I figured out that when Mum went, I was sort of a bit lost, and I just figured out the place I had the most fun and most enjoyment was basketball. It was always the thing that made me happiest, and I just went straight back to it. And then I got involved in New South Wales and their new development program. We had an American come in as a director of coaching, which was common in that era. And he'd set up a whole system where we broke the state up into conferences, and there's 16 regions. We had development camps, etc., etc. So I got jumped in, boots and all, and enjoyed it. Next thing I know, I'm the director of coaching in New South Wales. So I spent 5 years there. I then went into the ITP program. We got that set up and going, which obviously they call it now the NITP across the country. But right at the beginning of that, I was involved, and I jumped off as the head coach for New South Wales of that. And then I just got the bug to coach. Just wanted to go, get some game coaching, because in a lot of those roles you do in development work, not necessarily coaching, team coaching. So then I went from there to Albury in the Siebel. Did 4 years there. It was really enjoyable. Then jumped over to Geelong in the NBL. I was there for 2 years. That was between Barnes, who was before us, and I was with an American guy called Jim Calvin, who's out of Indiana. I'd been to Indiana, some networks and contacts there. And then after that, I went to Mildura. And I was up in Mildura doing the Siebel up there, which is a real lot of fun. And then from there, effectively, we had our son, Reed, and my wife, Marie. She woke up one morning and said, "We're moving." And I think we're going to just go from, North Mildura to South Mildura. And we're coming all the way back to Sydney, because she wants Reed to grow up with family, etc., which is all the right reasons. And so end up back in Sydney, north of Sydney actually, end up in Terrigal, and then there's an ad in the paper for a job at Newington. And, my first reaction was, no way I'd coach those precious pups. That's not going to happen. But as fate would have it, I've been here for 11 years and really enjoying it. Now, involved in all that, I've done numerous tours to America. I've worked in America. I've worked overseas in Europe. There's been lots of other bits that go on, but that's the general path that I've been in. Always been doing camps and development work and coaching clinics. I've never lost the enjoyment of getting down and getting dirty with kids, and I've continued to do that over all these years. I really haven't gone too far away from where I started, really, to be honest. So that's it in a nutshell. That's where I am.
That's pretty good, Rex. But we have actually missed one of the unique features of particularly your camps and your coaching situation. We have the Royal Flying Doctor Service in Australia, but in you, I think we have the first Royal Flying Basketball Coach Service. What's the deal with this, Rex?
Yeah, well, a lot of things in life become necessary, and I love aviation. It's been my other passion. But that came about, I was in Mildura, and like everywhere I've ever been, I'll go, and like many other coaches, I've always gone down the gym, open it up at 6:30, and have kids and anyone who wants to come work on their game be there with them. And I had this girl, Belinda O'Halloran, very good player. She started to turn up and started the journey of becoming a player in the challenge. And after about 4 weeks of turning up, her dad comes, and I knew it was something because he had one of those white shirts with those lapel things, those bars on his shoulder. So I figured he was up to something. Yeah, exactly. So he wanted to. He said, "Look, I don't have any money to pay you, but I feel like I should do something for you." And I said, "Oh, look, I don't expect that. Many people helped me when I was a kid. More than happy to help out." Then he said, "I'm a pilot. Why don't you come for a fly?" Well, I went down the airport with him one day there, and I jump in the driver's seat, and next thing I know, I'm in the air and I'm flying it, and it was pure, unadulterated fear. But there was something else about it as well. I landed that thing. Well, I thought I landed. He landed it, but it just makes you make you think you did.
Bouncy.
Yeah, exactly. And I go home and tell Marie, but the hook was in. And then it became a real practical thing because Marie's family was a 12-hour drive. My family was an 8-hour drive. To do it on commercial transport was just prohibitive cost-wise. So I was able to use that as my argument with Marie. So then we went and bought a plane. Bought a plane off a rice farmer in Deniliquin. So I had the plane today, and it's as you do. And I've used that plane for for 15 years now, and it's got me to a lot of camps, to a lot of games, a lot of clinics, a lot of lectures. It's just the most fun you can possibly have. It's the most fun you can have legally anyhow. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Well, it must give you a lot of kudos when you roll up to a coaching camp at Dubbo and you've just hopped out of your plane. I mean, fair play, Rex. It's not the norm.
No, I understand it's not the norm. But, it's like selling your dreams to players, Mike. It's the same thing. If you can possibly live it, don't worry about it. Just get out there and live it. I always had a funny one. Eddie Palavinskas. So you'd know Eddie well, but. He was a great Australian player, but over the years I always kept touched base with him, kept contact, and he wanted to do a whole series of clinics in Australia. And he wanted to paint the plane, and because that's what another thing Eddie does. He goes around and paints basketball courts in America. He does it all over the place. So he wanted to paint the plane with hoops on it and balls firing out and fire and stuff. And I just couldn't quite bite the bullet to go that far. I thought I should keep it fairly conservative.
All right, now Rex, through that journey, you would have come across a lot of remarkable people that are quite selfless in their commitment and the time they put into basketball and their love for the game. Briefly, I know we won't cover everybody. Some of the people that really made an impression on you for the contribution they've made to their local basketball communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at a personal level, Adrian Hurley, was outstanding. He was a great just mentor for me. Peter Matasius, who we talked about earlier, is the first director of coaching before me, was an American. And more than just the basketball, but just on a personal level, and showed you good ways. Brucey Leonard up in Grafton, unbelievable man what he did, and never judge a book by his cover. If you ever seen Bruce, he's got the long hair and he's wore flip flops his whole life, never got a pair of shorts, and people would dismiss him way too early. Smart man, great passion, and it's just done so much good for basketball over the years. John Davidson, Port Macquarie's another one. John Martin, he'd be another one, just selfishly giving up a lot of time to make the game great. And I mean, I hate naming people because I feel like I'm going to miss them because there's so many, great people out there. Ashley Donaldson out of Bendigo, just amazing. Like, I think he retired and he probably works harder now in basketball than he ever did, he's joy to give back. For me, I find that motivational. That those people just give up their time. I mean, that's what you're on the planet for, right? Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but if you can help others, you should. I mean, you should do it. And I just find, just inspiration and comfort with those type of people, like-minded. It's not about them. It's about, what's best for the game and how they can help them. I could go on and on and on. I mean, I spent a period of time when I was young, just seeking knowledge. And I spent time with, Dean Smith, the coach at North Carolina. And just to be around him was just that you felt he just had that thing about him. You just felt it, and a man like that in his position and what he had built at North Carolina, and he would speak to his players every week, and Cecil Exum was with me at Geelong, and I was over there around that period, just after, we're sitting in a room with Coach Smith and we're watching a game on Channel 7 way back then, or might have been Channel 10, where Cecil had played, and then Coach Smith rings him the next day and is talking to him about his game, what he needs, do a bit of better boxing out, a bit of better rebound, that type of commitment and just, and integrity, and just decency. So I chased a lot of people around those. Lou Olson, who came to Australia, is another great one. I can think of Al Rhodes, another American guy. He's a high school coach out of Indiana. Still a friend to this day. Again, just amazing. What he's done in his own country, but his preparedness to give, to anyone that's interested. Yeah. So there's a lot of them, mate. I'd put you in the same bracket over the years. We've had some good talks about the game, and nothing but respect. And I think I've been privileged to be involved with these people personally. I think, they might say they've got stuff off me. I got a lot more off them than they'd ever know. I probably should tell them before I fall off the perch.
Well, maybe
really.
But what I was going to say, Rex, I guess similar to you, it's the cooperative nature of the sport that is really quite encompassing. We do have tiffs with referees and administrators along the way, but in the end, you can still go and have a beer and, well, if you drink, and have a chat. And I think that respect there is pretty common with most of the basketball people. Can we move on now, because we won't touch Newington just yet, but along that, with all of that, what is the thing that you are most proud of in that career, which is by no way finished yet, but thus far?
I mean, on a personal level, the thing I'm most, on a personal level, is I still have the same juice and energy that I had way back, and I'm getting older, but boy, when I step on that floor, I don't know why, but it just flows out of me. I'm really proud of that. the other thing I'm really proud of is that I've been able to, at one level or another, I've been able to do it for a living for 38 years in Australia, which I think is quite unique. It's not easy to do. And I'm not talking profile or big buck. I don't care. The thing is, I've been able to be in it, And so they're two things on a personal level. On a basketball level, I've never made a player. I have never made a single player, but I think I've helped a lot of players achieve what they're trying to achieve. And the greatest pleasure out of the game is when they move on from you and finish their career, and they're still emailing, ringing, and want you to go to christenings of kids and to, just track what they're doing, in their life as men or women. I just find that, again, we're back to the same thing. It's back to people, and that's the real joy for me. And I've been very fortunate to have had an influence or touched or, had some ability to help kids achieve some dreams. So I guess that's, in the end, that's all it's about, really, for me.
And Rex, I think you've touched on something there that most coaches would admit to. It doesn't matter what level, it doesn't matter what grade, it doesn't matter what age group, it's still a barrel full of fun at any level. Now, you're currently at Newington College. I did have the pleasure of visiting your facility and admiring the elite level facilities available to the kids. But what I'm also really, as you said there, the enthusiasm you display, the energy you display to that program is really at the highest level. But let's get down to some coaching things. With these programs at the school, what is your key coaching philosophy?
The key is, be the best you can be. Use the game to develop your character. And I talk about that all the time. It's just the greatest environment where you can fall over, fail, have success and everything else, and just learn how to be a decent bloke through all of it. I mean, I think we've lost the art to a degree of just being a decent bloke. It's okay to lose. As long as you try it hard, it's okay to lose. If you win, it doesn't mean you're better than the next man. It just means you're better on the day you were better. Yep. I just think that, for young people, it's the greatest environment to learn those things, to chip away at your character and develop it. It might sound corny to a degree, but I just believe in it. I just totally believe in it. And so for me, that's the real driving factor. The other thing I love is, it cracks me up. I mean, if you work with boys, when and anyone has had children know it, when they get to that 15, 16, their brains aren't connected. They go in this wobbly stage, and it's just the way it is. And it's challenging. But if you can just keep motivating them and get them through that bubble, and I guess in my situation, I've got them in primary school. I can watch them go all the way through to their 18, 19-year-olds, and I can honestly say, you watch them go from a boy to a man, and in most cases, they're very decent young men, and you're actually very proud of them. You didn't, again, I didn't make them, but I showed them the way, and only a little part, but I'm sure I helped. Yeah. And that's the most fun I have, mate. I have that fun every day.
And Rex, I think they're the richer for having known you and having you as a coach as well. And I'd like to thank our guest, Rex Nottage. And please, if you can think of people that you think deserve to be featured on our Community Basketball Legends, just send us an email, text or phone call, or a Google Hangout message, and we'll make every effort to cover them wherever they are in Australia.